What's going on, YouTube? It's the Week 7 preview of the Hurry Up Offense, back for another week of NFL action. TJ Winger is joined, as always, by JT Creed and Mason Cannon. Boys, let me hear from you. How have you guys been? Mason, I'll start with you. How's the last 7 days treated you?
They've been good, man. Pats, speaking on a football perspective, Pats looking good. Mac Jones coming back. We'll see if that throws off the rhythm. But other than that, man, bets are not hitting, but we move forward like always. So.
And now we got the NBA in swing, so there's some chances where maybe football's holding you back, but basketball season, that's where the money can also be obtained. JT, how's it been, man?
Yeah, going good. As you know, mentioned basketball, got a little UNC basketball shirt on. So definitely looking forward to college basketball starting up. Had the NBA, first day of the NBA last night. That was cool. But yeah, on to football. Another week in football. Vikings have a bye, so no crazy rooting interest for me this week. Just get to, bet a little bit, watch a little fantasy football stuff, and go from there.
Yeah, we live in the best time of the year where we have the NHL, the NFL, college football, college basketball soon to be back, the NBA, MLB playoff. Like, this is just like creme de la creme of sports. But we're going to go ahead and start talking about our 5 games. Nothing to really hit on in the rhythm throws. Our 5 games today, as always: Thursday night football, one 1 o'clock game, one 4 o'clock game, on Sunday, Sunday night football, Monday night football. And if you want to see our picks for the entire spread, be sure to check out the link in the description. It sends you to our picks league. You can join it if you want, or if you just want to see how we're feeling about some other games, you can see it there. But let's go ahead and jump into Thursday night football. Man, dude, I'm feeling bad for Prime. They can't catch a break. They're getting some ugly games. But it's the Saints and the Cardinals. This line just updated. It's Cardinals favored by 2, over under at 44. JT, I'll start with you. I'm going to have y'all talk about it while I go grab my water. But any leanings here going on? The Saints, it's worth noting, no Michael Thomas, no Marshawn Lattimore likely, no Jarvis Landry, and a QB decision we made at game time. That screams big yikes to me. But I turn it to you, JT.
Yeah, not loving the Saints here. Cardinals, I don't love them either. Like TJ was kind of hinting on, like there's not, Prime. They're getting some rough matchups on these Thursday night games. If you look preseason at some of these Thursday night matchups, you'd be like, oh, dude, this is going to be money games every Thursday. They probably thought the same thing when they got, the schedule. They were like, oh, sweet. But these teams have all pretty much been duds aside from the first night. Like, all these Thursday night games have been duds.
I think that wasn't Prime. That was NBC that had the very first Thursday night game.
You're right. So, Prime's just been kind of getting screwed, even though, on paper, preseason, these two teams we thought were going to be pretty solid. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't really lean a certain way. I think Arizona's got more talent, kind of across the board, with a bunch of big names being out for the Saints. Arizona's also at home, and they're only giving up 2 points. So I kind of like the Cardinals from a betting perspective. I think they win the game outright. But I didn't have this as my lock, but this is kind of interesting. Just looking at it, teasing the Cardinals with the under. So you tease that, you get the Cardinals +4, and you get the under 50. I think that seems really nice at -120. So that's something that I'm probably going to be looking to play. I don't see them scoring more than 50 combined, and you get the Cardinals at +4, which is a nice number. So yeah, that's kind of how I would look at it if I'm going to play it from a betting perspective. Otherwise, I'm just hoping for touchdowns on Thursday night, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting play. You don't get a whole lot of value teasing through 0 just because games don't always end in ties that often. So maybe Cardinals money line under 50 alt spread. That could be a hot play there. But Mason, let me hear your thoughts on this one. Depleted Saints against the Cardinals team that's coming off a loss too. This kind of feels like a Arizona get right spot.
Yeah, like you said, Cardinals need to get back on the road ASAP if they want to, make a push for the playoffs. I know it's still early, but they hadn't looked right. I know you were hot on them in the beginning of the year. I think a lot of people were hot on the Cardinals in the beginning of the year, but I've kind of took a step back from them. But with the all the injuries with the Saints now, the quarterback situation, no Michael Thomas, all those injuries, I do lean Cardinals. I think they need to win, like I said, and I probably will play Cardinals -2, but I did like JT's point on the teaser. That was kind of spicy. I'll probably play that. Also, D-Hop coming back. Right. He was dying to come back. They need something going with that offense. Marquise Brown's doing what he's doing, but now you have D-Hop as well. Kyler Murray might get things cooking. We'll see what happens, but I do lean the Cardinals this week.
Yeah, so I was pretty down on the Cardinals coming into the year, but that being said, like being the third best team in the NFC West was still something I was like, that's not. It's not like being the third best team in the the AFC South or the NFC East, at least based off our preseason kind of thoughts of those conference or divisions. But also Hollywood Brown out for a month. It originally was going to be a season-ending injury, but now it sounds like it's just a month. Don't think we see a lot of Robbie Anderson after they just made that trade for him. Maybe he's running some go routes and basically just being a clear out guy. But DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is the biggest thing returning. So in a game where the Saints don't have Michael Thomas, and I mean Chris Olave's been great, but they're down their stud wide receivers. The Cardinals are getting their guy back. I think that leads me to lean Arizona. 2 points isn't a whole lot to forfeit here. So could be an interesting play here. I don't know if I'm going to really touch it or play it heavy. All I do know is, man, that Prime Vision. If you don't already, when you do watch the games on Prime Video, definitely check it out. Have y'all been doing that the last couple of weeks?
I do sometimes. I kind of flip back and forth. I do like the Prime Vision sometimes, but sometimes I go back to the regular broadcast.
Sometimes you miss kind of the old school look of it, but something about that over the top that is just so clean that I really dig. But nonetheless, it sounds like we're all on the Cardinals -2. We'll see. And honestly, I'm fascinated to see what happens with this quarterback situation in New Orleans, because I could see a world where Dennis Allen, defensive-minded coach, is like, I know what I'm getting with Andy Dalton. It's not going to be flashy, but it's going to be consistent. It's going to be stable. And then maybe once we get Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry back in the fold, maybe the offense can hit its stride. But yeah, that whole Winston versus Dalton, like who's going to be starting here? I think that's kind of an interesting component going into this one. But like I said, it sounds like we're all on the Cardinals. We'll leave this one. Let's head into game 2 now. That's the Falcons and the Bengals. And dude, how about the Atlanta Falcons, man? I was somebody who I thought this team could be having the #1 overall pick next year. I did not like this roster whatsoever. There's something about that offense. Like Arthur Smith has got it cooking right now. The wide receivers are fun. The running backs are hitting the hole. The offensive line is, especially in run blocking, been better than I thought. But Mason, I'll start here with you. Falcons getting 6 points. You think the Bengals can cover that at home?
Yeah, it's an interesting spot for sure. I saw something, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and obviously they've looked good ever since, but they've covered in every single game this year so far. So that's something to watch. I think I'm going to ride that. I think 6 points is too many points against a Bengals team that still hasn't really proven that they're Super Bowl runner-ups. So I like the Falcons here at the spot, getting 6 points. They've looked good. Mariota's looked good, but I don't know. But then part of me also says Bengals win this easily, but I think I'm leaning Falcons. I don't know. It's a tough game. I'm not sure if I'll bet it or not, but I think I'll lean the Falcons getting 6 points.
All right. Well, JC, let me ask you then. As we were talking about the Cardinals, they're coming off a loss, going home. It felt like a chance for them to get right. Falcons are coming off a huge home win against San Francisco, now hitting the road. And, since he's also coming off a win, so that part of it doesn't really play as much. But do you think this could be a letdown spot for the Falcons?
Yeah, I can see a letdown spot for the Falcons. I mean, we're still waiting on that Bengals get right game too. I mean, they've had some decent games where they squeaked out wins, but they haven't looked dominant pretty much all season. At least in my opinion, I haven't really seen a game where I'm like, oh, that makes sense. They're blowing them out because they've got all the talent. We could be due for one of those games. I know the Falcons aren't great in pass D, so Joe Burrow could kind of dice them up a little bit. But kind of like you were talking about, I mean, Arthur Smith's got the offense cooking. He's not using his best player, Kyle Pitts, and he's still, they're still scoring points. So I don't really understand how that's happening. He finally got
coming from a Kyle Pitts fantasy owner.
I'm a Kyle Pitts fantasy owner. He finally got his first touchdown last week, and I think he had 3 catches and like 30 yards. But at least he scored. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to, and got outscored by Robert Tonyan on my bench. But anyway, that aside. The Falcons are moving the ball with a rookie receiver at their 1 and a tight end that they don't throw to. So, they've got stuff cooking on offense, and I can see it being a Bengals letdown spot. I don't know. I'm kind of at the point with the Bengals, the Packers, and the Bucks, all 3 together, where I think the offensive line play and just more so the lack of weapons of the Packers, but most of the offensive line play, especially with the Bucks and the Bengals. It's like, I think it just kind of is limiting their ceiling until they can kind of figure that out or get into a groove, or they just play like a team with a really bad pass rush. I just don't see them really handling any games like that. I would look to maybe tease this. Again, I don't know if the teaser kind of feels right. Maybe tease Falcons to plus 12. And then I'd probably go the over 41. That would be what you would tease it down to. So that's kind of nice. Actually, that's another one that sounds nice to me.
JT's feeling his teasers this afternoon. But, well, a couple things I kind of wanted to hit on there. So, one with this Bengals team, kind of like what you were talking about. They haven't really they've been winning games, but it hasn't been such an impressive banner like it was when they were taking down Kansas City in Kansas City last year. They had to come from behind last week against Andy Dalton. Like, they had to play from behind and then really only led for 3 minutes in that game or thereabout. That's pretty wild. Like, granted, playing in New Orleans is no easy task, but I think this is a spot where I think Cincinnati wins, but 6 is too much. And I look at this Falcons team. Yeah, Kyle Pitts is not getting an insane amount of targets, which has frustrated so many people, which just, as someone who's never drafted Kyle Pitts before, that's fantastic. I'm enjoying it all. But, Drake London, stud. That dude is so hard to bring down with the ball in his hands. And I saw a bunch of draft comps to Brandon Marshall, and that's exactly what he's kind of.
No, Drake London, he's legit.
Oh, he's nice.
And Marcus Mariota incorporating his legs in the offense last week was really nice. And
he seems like he's taken more of like what the defense has given him this year more than ever. So
yeah, it feels like he's playing patient in that offense. And part of the reason it feels like he's taking what he gets is because I think the offense is scheming it up that way. Like, again, ton of credit to Arthur Smith getting good players in space and allowing them to create. And then I look at that Falcons defense, and the kryptonite for Cincinnati again is their offensive line. And Dean Pease is this guy who brings crafty blitzes. So that could either totally bust and like he's overthinking it and there's coverage busts and this becomes 45-10 Cincinnati real quick. Or those schemes play some tricks, they get some pressure. Next thing you know, you could be looking at like 21-20. And like fourth quarter drive, Joe Burrow kind of secures it for Cincinnati. I think that's kind of more where I'm leaning in this one. I think that's the game script I would follow. AJ Terrell versus Jamar Chase. That national title matchup when they were both in college, AJ Terrell was wiped off the face of the earth. I took him out of my first round. Like, I just did not see him as that guy if Jamar Chase embarrassed him that much. But since then,
I think we see a bounce back. I think we see a nice get back game for him.
And to that point, like, since that college game, he has not looked that bad since. So like,
he's good. He's legit corner one to me. He's a CB1 to me.
Oh, like, for sure. And he's a top 10, top 15 guy easily at the position in me, probably in that top 10 grouping. And then, Casey Hayward's solid enough on the other side. He's had another decent year. I don't know. This Falcons team, if the pressure hits, feels like they could be sneaky enough on defense to get some stops and keep this game close. So I'm going to go with Atlanta to cover, but with Cincinnati to win. So, I'm taking the 6 points there with Falcons. I want to go back to something you mentioned there for a moment, JT. These offenses that have really underwhelmed. And that's kind of been the storyline of the NFL in my eyes. Like, Tampa Bay is not who we thought they were. Green Bay, we knew their wide receiver issues, but they have not figured them out. The Rams
scoring's down across the league.
Right. So. The Rams offensive line has taken them, out of the air. And there's plenty of other teams you could even look at as prime examples of that. Denver, that one's less offensive line and more so like Russell Wilson's just, not it. Nathaniel Hackett might not be it either. So I think that's an interesting opponent and, kind of putting Cincinnati in that grouping until they figure out the offensive line. I don't think our expectations will be met. So that's kind of an interesting kind of just something to keep your eyes on and monitor throughout this upcoming week because it's week 7 now. Like, let me start seeing you hit it into stride. Like, let's start figuring problems out. So I think this is one where the Falcons hang tough on the road. I think Cincinnati wins, but one thing I'm watching is, do the Bengals start to figure things out? Like, this is a Atlanta team that doesn't have a great pass rush outside of the pressure. Can Lyle Collins hold his own in a one-on-one? Can this guy look like a guy who's making $10+ million a year? I'm hoping to find that answer this week. Anyways, let's move on to game 3 now. The Seattle Seahawks against the LA Chargers. And this basically is the exact same thing. My exact same feelings, just the West Coast version of this game. I got Seattle covering. I got the Chargers to win outright, but I think Seattle keeps this close. I think, 6-point spread after we just watched the Chargers struggle bus against the Broncos. I think this time the league starts showing, or Vegas starts showing more respect to the Seahawks. But Mason, I'll start with you, man. Where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, before I get to that, I just want to say on the record, I'm learning so much from you guys talking. I don't know half of the stuff you guys are talking about. I just want to say that.
We appreciate it.
So I'm just sitting back saying what I know, but anyways, Seahawks and Chargers. Yeah, I think I'm with you, TJ. I think the Seahawks cover 6 points. And can we just talk about the DraftKings promo? Justin Herbert throw one passing touchdown.
Dog, I'm telling you, somebody at DraftKings has mastered the ability to time travel. There is no other shot you would put that promo, that incentive to get people to sign up. There's just no other way.
They had to have run some crazy like algorithm or something where like it's the absolute perfect matchup in the perfect scenario for him to just not throw a touchdown.
That or somebody came back from the future and said, hey, Justin Herbert becomes one of the 4 quarterbacks all time that's throwing 50 passes a game and didn't throw a touchdown. So I'm getting worked up here that they should have given a refund because that was meant as a bonus. That was meant as a sign up and make money. And they just had people sign up and they ripped them. Dude,
I literally deposited money just to win, and I lost. So
they're stealing from Mason to pay Paul, man. Like literally. That's actually your middle name. That's funny enough. But anyways, I digress. JT, I know last week wasn't like a gaudy Geno Smith game, but before that, you and I had a quick conversation. We were like, dude, Geno Smith this is not the Jets and Giants Geno. He's doing stuff that he hasn't done before. And I think the other interesting component is Kenneth Walker. That dude looked legit last week. And this Seattle team is running the football well. And this is a Chargers team that does not stop throwing at a high level. Even when they sell out and Brandon Staley gives up his identity to try to stop the Browns rushing attack, they don't do it at a high level. So again, I think the matchup is here kind of spicy. One more thing I want to ask you. JC Jackson, how much of him do you think we see this week? If you would take away, he had 2 coverage busts in that game. If you take away his coverage busts and the numbers that Russ Wilson accumulated on that, he has like the most pathetic game of his season, which is saying something. So, I'm kind of interested to see what you thought, what the Chargers defense looked like early against the Broncos, but also where you leaning on this one? How do you think Geno fares? How do you think the running game works for Seattle in this one?
Yeah, I see Seattle as a really balanced team. Lower upside, but a high floor. It's kind of how I look at Seattle. I think they're going to kind of, like you said, to me, this matchup is very similar to the Falcons Bengals, where we're waiting for that Chargers get right game. It hasn't hit yet. And we're also looking at the Seahawks just like the Falcons. You're like, wow, they're doing something here. I actually see the Seahawks as a slightly better team than the Falcons in general. I think the Seahawks offer a little bit more on defense and a little bit more consistency in terms of ability to just like drive the field and kind of play field position. I think I see the Seahawks as a slightly better Falcons team. I don't know. I'm leaning with you guys. Seahawks are getting 6 points. It's at the Chargers. That's a bit concerning. And Justin Herbert's just, he's getting healthier each week. So we could see kind of a blow up performance by him at some point. Keenan Allen's health is still, he's still out.
I was just looking that up.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a huge, that's just huge. This Chargers offense has been kind of ugly without Keenan Allen. Austin Eckler is still kind of doing his thing, but aside from him, man, Mike Williams, I think, is one of the more overrated receivers in the league. He's so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
That to me, it's just he's just another guy that can do one thing decent. But I don't know. I kind of lean Seahawks +6 here. I don't know if I'd bet it then. I don't know if I bet it. I'd say with Keenan Allen there, I definitely wouldn't bet it. If Keenan's out again, I would think about Seahawks +6. I might put it in like a parlay or something like that, but I don't know if I'd put a lot of money on it straight.
Yeah, so 2 things I wanted to hit on right there. One, home field advantage here. It's in LA, but the Chargers fan base there's as many people in this apartment, right?
It's more about like comfort.
Chargers fans going to that game. So the Rams kind of steal all the LA love for football there, and the Chargers have never really had a staunch fan base. But I did want to give you an update on the Keenan Allen. He is on pace for Brandon Staley to practice, so it sounds like he'll play. And you can even go back, check out last week's episode. The receipts are right there. I said Mike Williams versus Pat Surtain is not something I like about this Chargers offense. That they were at a disadvantage. That was the worst matchup they could have had that week without Keenan Allen against a Denver team that plays a scheme that Justin Herbert struggles against, and they had a guy to take away Williams, who, like you said, JT, he wins contested catches. And he doesn't even have the speed of someone like a DK Metcalf, where it's like, dude, just give him one quick cut and throw him a slant. It's pretty much go balls and any variation of that, and he's got to go win it in the air. So with that said, I look at Tariq Woolen in this game. 4 picks already, 6'4", runs in the 4.2s. He was a project corner coming out of UTSA, but dude's hit the ground running at a pretty high level. There's still some learning errors, and he gives up some chunk plays here and there, but
I would say I could see Keenan maybe tearing him up a little bit this week. Kind of welcome to the league, kind of.
Right.
Well,
right.
I think if Seattle's playing their cards right, he's matched up against Mike Williams because Keenan Allen would be a mismatch. Keenan Allen's too shifty, more quick than fat. Like that's the exact. Yeah. Tariq Woolen has great straight line speed, but go look at his 3-cone numbers. The dude does not turn well. So Keenan Allen's the exact wrong matchup. That's like carbon copy. Number one corner goes against number one wide receiver stuff. So, but if he's on Mike Williams, it's another quiet week for Mike Williams. So sorry, Mike Williams fans, but look at the Tariq Woolen interception last week. That was like what made him such an intriguing prospect. He goes step for step down the field with Hollywood Brown, a 4.2 speed dude, at least high 4.3s. And he's 6'4", so by the time the pass is thrown, he's the intended target essentially. He just got caught in the air. He didn't even have to work for it, that hard for it. So him versus Mike Williams, that's the battle I'm so fascinated with. But like y'all said, if Keenan Allen's back here, I feel a little bit better about the Chargers offense. The last thing before we leave here, the Chargers do not win games by touchdowns. When is Vegas going to even if they don't like Seattle, LA does not win these games by touchdowns, man. So I got the Seahawks covering, and I know Seattle money line made some people a lot of money, and if you did it again here, I wouldn't hate that play. Depending on what the odds are, I have to look that one up. But anyways, let's jump.
I'll say before we move on from these two games, the only thing I would say is I can see, just to play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
If you're someone who believes in regression to the mean, I could definitely see somebody just being looking at the Falcons, Bengals, and looking at this matchup and being there's good value in believing on regression to what you think these rosters can be, and what team they should be.
Sure.
And then you would play Bengals -6 and Chargers -6, thinking at least one of them's gonna hit, probably both, whatever it may be, if you're on that side of things. Or you could be on the other side and just play, Seahawks and Falcons money line and hope if one hits, you profit. So it's I don't know.
And
I think that's ways to play it.
I think I'd go with the latter rather than the former there, just because it's easier to bet things we know versus trying to predict things that we don't know when they're going to happen, right? As much, you're 100% right. The Bengals at 3-3, I think they're a double-digit win team. The Chargers at 4-2, but kind of an ugly 4-2. It's okay, they should be better. And then Seahawks and Falcons both with 3 wins. If you told me at the end of the season they had 3 wins, I'd be like, yeah, okay, there we go. That sounds about right. So I can totally see that. Now, Grant, I'm not predicting that. So kudos to you if you do. But that'll do it for game 3. Let's move on to Sunday Night Football. My Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Miami Dolphins. Spread set to Dolphins favored by 7, over under at 45. JT, I want to start with you. Let's start with Tua Tagovailoa has been cleared to play in this. You got to see Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater firsthand. A homecoming for Teddy B. I didn't even think about that last week. But you got to see that offense firsthand last week, adding Tua back to the mix. How do you think the Steelers defense matches up against Miami's offense?
Not great. Teddy did not play well, to be honest. Against the Vikings last week, he held the ball a lot and let our pass rush do a lot more than we should have. Our pass rush numbers were gaudy. We were getting a sack. It felt like every 4th or 5th play we'd get a sack. But really, the O-line wasn't great, but they weren't that bad. Teddy was just holding the ball, waiting for stuff to. I don't know if it almost looked like he was timid in terms of decision making, and he looked rusty just from not playing a whole lot recently. So to me, I don't know. I mean, we could see that with Tua too, but I see kind of the Dolphins getting back to form with what we saw in the first few weeks. So I lean Dolphins here -7. 7's kind of a tough number. It's a really tough number, especially against Mike Tomlin. But just with the health of the Steelers secondary still in question, man, Tyreek Hill and Waddle, Waddle was kind of quiet against the Vikings last week. Tyreek Hill still ate us up for 180 yards. I could see more of that. One of them just going nuts. Tua throwing for another 300 and 3 touchdowns or something like that. I don't know. I just think if the Steelers had a healthy defense, or just the secondary in general, I think if Minka plays, maybe take the Steelers. I think he's that good. I think he's really that important to the.
And a revenge game for him too.
Yeah, and so for me, if Minka's not playing, and even if he's not at 100%, I like the Dolphins here. Offense is still going to be explosive with those 2 weapons, so it's kind of how I'm leaning there.
Yeah, so Mason, before I throw it to you, update on some injuries. Kenny Pickett, he will start if he clears concussion protocol. So again, we're having to wait and see there. If I'm being honest, I don't really think there's that much of a difference between the 2 quarterbacks.
I don't think it matters.
I think Pickett is more intriguing as a Steelers fan because it's what do we got? But play level wise, I don't think there's a huge difference. Minka Fitzpatrick sounds like he's going to play. But the 3 starting corners, Levi Wallace, Ahkello Witherspoon, and Cam Sutton, definitely still question marks. I don't think any of them participated in practice Tuesday. I didn't check on Wednesday. So yeah, down all 3 starting corners against Tyreek Hill, and it does sound like Jalen Waddle's going to play. That was the last injury update. Yeah, that could be a tough time there in Miami. Mason, now one more thing before I throw it to you. Did you see that picture of the 2 sidelines and the degree difference? I don't think that'll be a huge factor here on Sunday Night Football, but did you see that? Did you see that picture?
Yeah,
it was like a 30-degree difference between one sideline and the other because one's
I watched a video on it.
Not.
Yeah, so one sideline, they specifically designed Miami Stadium to where the opponent's always playing in the sunlight throughout the game. So it's like a 30-degree difference in sideline. And another thing that they do in the NFL, I guess because of like competition rules and things like that, if one sideline is using like misters, the other one can. But if one decides they don't want them, the other one can't. So the Dolphins don't use misters, so the other team has to be in like 100+ degree weather, like under the sunlight, getting baked, and they're not allowed to use misters.
What?
Basically, that's it.
Isn't that wild?
Yo.
Now again, this is a Sunday night game, so I don't think that plays a huge.
Yeah,
factor,
it doesn't play a factor, but like the fact that they did that is crazy. Like it's wild.
The fact that that's allowed is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, home field advantage. Actually, tying that into something. So the school I currently work at, they actually do something similar on their soccer/lacrosse, their turf field. And basically, to start games, they'll play games at 4:00 and the sun is setting in the away keeper's eyes. So
yeah,
kind of an interesting way.
Because I played when I played baseball at Bridgewater, I played third base, and the sun would set. Same thing. We start games at 4, and the sun would come straight down. Dude, I couldn't see the batter half the time. So like, I would just be like looking, like squinting at the ground.
Let alone triple digits in your direction.
Rough, dude.
But okay, cool. Mason, long last. Let me hear what you think about this one. Do you think Pittsburgh can cover 7? It's a ton of points, man.
Yeah, I'll be quick because I'm not too sure. Honestly, I probably won't touch this game as a betting perspective. But 7 is a lot. I think the Dolphins are due for a bounce back after losing a couple. You got Tua coming back. You've got your 2 receivers. You've got some questions on the Steelers' defensive side of the ball. So I definitely think the Dolphins win the game. Will they win by more than 7? I don't know, possibly, but I think I lean Dolphins here. I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but I probably won't bet it. I don't know.
I would say I think the Dolphins defense is gonna handle the Steelers offensive weapons pretty well. Xavier Howard, like Justin Jefferson put up decent numbers last week, but a lot of that was off motion and like really good scheming. Xavier Howard, when on Justin Jefferson, played very well. And, aside from playing on Justin Jefferson, Xavier Howard's just a dog. And also Holland, he was flying all over the field. And he's going to do that again this week. So I think it's kind of a bad matchup on both ends.
Yeah. So that's kind of it's even written down here in the notes. I was trying to see if Byron Jones is coming back. Doesn't sound like his returns this week, but it might be here the next couple of weeks for Miami. But that would be just, further ammunition for your point there. 7 points is a ton, but I think this is like 30-20 Miami. Like that just feels about right. I think it's just a tough draw for the Steelers. Now, granted, this is one of the unique games where Miami's pass rush is so lethargic. Or not so lethargic, but it's not great. This might not be the team that takes advantage of how bad Pittsburgh's offensive line is. So that part is a little interesting, a little glimmer of hope there for me as a Steelers fan. But that being said, Christian Wilkins could take this game over too. So it really could go either way.
You like the over? I mean, I think if Pickett starts and like you're saying with that, the Dolphins pass rush isn't great. He might have a little bit of time to sprinkle it, across the field.
If all 3 Steelers starting corners are out, then I think that Miami offense is designed to put up points. I mean, even last week between the 2 quarterbacks, it was a 10 yards of average depth of target. Like they were moving the ball, like they were getting, solid statistical production out of those, Teddy B and Skylar Thompson. So, and I can see where Pittsburgh's like, hey, we're down by 3 scores in the 4th quarter, but we need to see what Kenny Pickett's all about. So we're they're not going to quit on this game because of that. So if it is Kenny Pickett and those corners are out, then I like the over. But otherwise, I don't know. It's kind of tough there. Last thing I wanted to talk about, and this, especially Sunday Night Football, unfortunately, this is going to end up being like probably the biggest story of it, is Brian Flores, now linebacker coach for the Steelers. And, I would assume he's my favorite to be the Texans head coach next year. So his return to Miami, so that's going to be interesting. I'm not going to speak to a whole lot of that because it doesn't really necessarily correlate to football, but they're going to be talking about that a ton on the broadcast. So that's going to be an unfortunate element, I think, to the broadcast because I just don't want to talk about football, So But that's going to be a big storyline nonetheless. Let's go ahead and transition now. Game 5, Chicago Bears in New England, taking on Mason's Patriots. As the Pats fan, Mason, I give you the floor, man. Do you think the Pats can cover an 8-point spread against Chicago?
Yeah, at first when I saw the 8-point spread, I was confused as to why it was so high. But then I also realized the last 2 weeks we've kind of dogged both of our opponents. So kind of similar to the whole Cowboys quarterback situation, I'm kind of hoping Bailey Zappi is playing as the QB1 here. I know, JT, you're not a Mac Jones fan.
Yeah,
and I know last
like
week and I know last week I said Bailey Zappi is not the answer. I still don't think he's the answer. But you know why? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Keep him rolling. Keep doing what you're doing. So hopefully Bailey Zappi's the quarterback. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Either way, if Mac Jones is under center or Bailey Zappi's under center, I still think the Pats win. Again, same thing with the Steelers-Dolphins. 8 points is a lot of points. So I don't know if I'll touch the spread, but I think the Patriots, there's no way they lose, right? Against the Bears, no shot. So
it's one of those games where on paper, I just can't see that happening. And especially Bill Belichick's track record of just bullying young quarterbacks, it's been tough as is for Justin Fields. And now he is walking into a minefield riddled of puzzles of him with Bill Belichick. He was the guy who shut out Justin Herbert his rookie year. I mean, Bill Belichick is just known for this stuff. So yeah, I'm going New England to cover here and at home. And I think the other interesting component of this, and I'll lead this into you, JT, just because I didn't know that you didn't like Mac Jones. That's interesting. But some people were talking about, the formations, play action percentage, motion percentages, and a lot of those traditional numbers when it was, Brady under center, or even with Cam Newton, they looked about the same. That changed a ton this year with Mac Jones, but now with Bailey Zappi, it's kind of reverted back to what they usually were. So do you think part of the reason maybe New England's offense is, looking like old is because it quite literally is looking like old and players are more comfortable in that situation and getting better because of it? Let me hear your take on what New England's offense looked like last couple of weeks.
To be honest, I haven't watched a ton of the Patriots games, so I couldn't tell you, I guess, the difference between what we were seeing through the first few weeks and now.
Well, what about the points? I think the points, kind of speak to that.
The points,
how much they beat the Lions 29-0, and they, just dogged
scored 45 on the Browns. Yeah.
I don't know what to make of the Patriots in general because they looked so lackluster to start the season, and it's been completely flipped on its head. I don't know really what much to make of that. I don't know if it's comfort or what it is, but it literally doesn't make sense in my brain. How a team goes from that to that quickly is kind of crazy. And you can call it coaching. I don't know if I'm going to go that far. Let's relax a second.
Not a big coaching.
Coaching is responsible for something. It's not responsible for 30-point difference or 40-point difference in a game. I'm sorry.
Coaches don't make tackles.
Your players are balling. Your players are balling at that point. No, it's a weird game. I think -8 and over/under at 140 at 40. Is about where it should be. I would maybe look to tease again, Pats and the under. So that's something I would look into. I could see a game where the Pats win 24-10 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a slow, controlled game where they just the Bears turn the ball over whenever they get close to scoring, and then that's just typical Bears. Typical Bears. No Bears. So typical Bears.
But real quick, before you go, TJ, even as a fan, I haven't watched a whole lot of the Patriots this year, and it is what it is. Ever since Tom Brady left, dude, I've just been so pissed off. I don't even want to really watch them play. But the last couple of weeks, there's kind of a spark. I don't know. We'll see. But I definitely get what you're saying.
It could just be an energy. If there's any position on the field where the the energy of a player can directly affect the outcome of the game, it's quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of get it. I would definitely not. Well, I don't know. It's tough because you don't want to give up on Mac Jones and just be yeah, you're not the guy.
Right.
I'm not there yet, but
I would keep him fake injured.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's not quite ready yet, even though my dude's definitely ready to start the game. But you just ride Zappy till you can't say that Max.
Same thing with the Cowboys, dude. Cooper Rush.
Get out of here with that.
I don't think that's quite what was happening, but
now Dak's good to go, dude.
Yeah. Well, now I think it's time for Dallas to make that change. But
Yeah,
It
well,
is.
I think with New England, it's an interesting trade-off because Zappe, he's not super mobile, but he has more mobility and he's a little more fleet of foot and willing to scramble and move and use his legs than, a Mac Jones, but doesn't have the arm strength either. Not that Mac has like a top tier NFL arm, but he can get the ball down the field a little bit further and he's got that deep downfield touch too. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there, but in a lot of ways, I look at this New England offensive turnaround and maybe it's just, Cleveland's defense might not be that good. Detroit's defense is historically bad. I get all that. But Damian Harris is hurt. You're talking about a third string quarterback, and it feels like two of your receivers, if at least one of the two, in Kendrick Bourne or Nelson Aguilar, are going to be traded. Like in a lot of ways, like the situation feels like it's just deteriorated offensively, but the production's just gone up. So again, I think you said it best, JT. I don't know what to make of it. It kind of defies all senses of logic. So I think this is a really good T spot. So maybe that's where the 8 points is a trap. I think you tease this down to 2. Pat's favored by basically a little short of a field goal. And then maybe you're taking the Seahawks to plus 12. Just the 2 games that we talked about today. But as we have now finished our 5-game preview, that leads us perfectly into our locks of the week, our 2-minute drill. So we're going to have 2 minutes to basically give you all our one individual lock of the week. I'll kick things off. I thought about a teaser right there with that New England game. I decided I'm just going to take Patriots money line and Packers money line. There's no way Aaron Rodgers is losing the game to Taylor Heineke. I don't care how bad that offense is. Odds come out to minus 115, so it's actually a little better than what you get with a teaser at minus 120. So I think that's a good play. I have a couple honorable mentions, but now I'll throw it over to JT. What's your play for the week?
Yeah, play of the week. Raiders got a great matchup against the Texans. Texans just aren't that good. The Raiders are playing at home, I believe. And you're getting teaser for me. It's going to be Raiders -1 and under 51.5. So Raiders spread and the under. Tease that down. Make some nice easy money, I think.
And Mason, you got a minute and 10 seconds. Take us home.
All right. Yeah. So none of my locks have hit. I think I'm 1-4. As
1 and 5. 1 and 5.
1 and 5.
Whatever the graphic says, that one's right.
That's all right. You're due.
Yeah.
JT so 3 and 3. I'm 3 and 4. You've had 1. Yeah.
Yep, so just take my picks with a grain of salt. 2-teamer Titans money. Yeah, 2-teamer Titans money line and Raiders money line. So I definitely like the Raiders in this spot. I also like the Titans in this spot as well. I went against the Colts. They got a bye week. They've had some time to prepare. I don't think the Titans lose at home. I think they're at home. But yeah, Titans and Raiders money line.
And so we beat it by 30 seconds. So I kind of want to talk about those games, then I'll shotgun approach it with my other plays that I like. That's plus 136. I think that's the best part about that bet is like the Raiders feel like a no-brainer against a far, worse Houston team. And then the Titans have already beaten the Colts once this year. They had a bye week to get ready, and the Colts are having to come off a week where they played for legitimately 60 minutes. They had to go down to the wire to beat Jacksonville. So, I love that play at plus odds. I think that's fantastic. So real quick, my honorable mentions. What were you saying, JT? My bad.
I was just gonna say, I think the Raiders money line is something this week where you can just take all your parlays and just throw that right on there.
Yeah, that's 100%. You're like looking for something that's you feel really good about, but you don't want to go like total minus 280 with the odds because you actually want to get a bump. I think Raiders money line, that could be a good one there. All right, here are my other plays. Straight up taking the Titans minus 2.5. I like the Titans against the spread in general this week against Indy. I also like the Jets getting 1.5 points against Denver. At that point, just take the Jets money line too. I actually think they're the better team right now. What are we talking about? The over under in that game is 39.5. Maybe you're going, T situation. Jets go out to 7.5, and then under on a new total of 45.5. That could be an interesting play. Also thought about a teaser with Jets out to 7.5. Pats down to -2. So a couple other plays, just a couple other suggestions there. I think they're all pretty solid takes, and they're all things I'll probably play as well. So any other honorable mentions y'all had, or y'all good to go?
Good to go. Cardinals and
Cardinals
Saints.
is another one.
Teasing that. Teasing Cardinals and then tease the under. Push it up to 51 as the total. That's another play I really like.
And then my last recommendation, if DraftKings does a touchdown prop this week, lay the fuck off of it. That's all I know. So that's going to do it for this episode. Hurry up offense. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Let me hear what you're thinking down below in the comment section. You playing the Herbert prop this week? No. Let us know some of your favorite games, favorite matchups of the 5 games we talked about. Who you got against the spread? If you want to see all our picks for the entire week, be sure to check out the link in the description with our the How Do You Get to Picks link. So if you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button. If you're new around here, want to see more football content and more conversations between the 3 of us, hit that big red subscribe button. But until next week, he's Mason, he's JT, I'm TJ. We are signing off.